What happens when a man who once had it all, wisdom, wealth, and power, falls into a spiral of darkness? This is the tale of Solomon, the man with 1,000 women. His story is more than just a collection of ancient texts. It's a reflection of the human condition, laden with timeless lessons and warnings. As we journey through Solomon's life, we will witness his ascent to unparalleled wisdom and prosperity, only to see him ensnared by the very gifts he had been endowed with. The story beckons us to consider the fragility of the human heart and the ease with which one can stray from the path of righteousness despite having all the tools to maintain it. In the end, to encapsulate the spiritual journey we embark upon, a brief and poignant moment of prayer will help us reflect on the deeper truths illuminated by Solomon's life. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 4. In the annals of ancient wisdom and folly, Solomon's narrative stands as a beacon and a warning. Like a richly woven tapestry, his life is depicted across various biblical texts, each thread contributing to the complex portrait of a man who was granted unparalleled wisdom, yet succumbed to profound moral failure. We start with 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 1 to 13, a passage that unveils the gravitational pull of Solomon's heart away from divine fidelity. Here, the scripture recounts how Solomon, once the epitome of divine wisdom, is drawn into the allure of foreign women. His numerous marriages, particularly to princesses from nations such as Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and the Hittites, are not mere matters of statecraft. They become the gateway to spiritual erosion. Despite the Lord's explicit command to the children of Israel not to intermarry with these nations, Solomon's heart clings to them in love. These alliances introduce idolatrous practices into his kingdom and life, turning his heart away from the singular devotion required by his God. It is a poignant reminder that no amount of earthly wisdom or grandeur can safeguard a heart divided against its own spiritual allegiance. The Lord became angry with Solomon, the passage tells us, because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Turning to Ecclesiastes, we encounter Solomon in a reflective and somewhat disillusioned stage of his life. Often considered a philosophical treatise, its words resonate with the voice of a ruler who has tasted the extremes of human endeavor and pleasure. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. These opening words from Ecclesiastes set the tone for work that probes the futility of worldly pursuits when divorced from divine perspective. Solomon systematically dismantles the pillars of human achievement, labor, wealth, wisdom, and pleasure, exposing their ultimate worthlessness in the grand arc of existence. Yet, even in this somber reflection, there is a glimmer of hope and a call to return to the fear of God and keep his commandments, for this, Solomon concludes, is the whole duty of man. Lastly, we delve into the Song of Solomon, a text that stands in contrast to the other accounts by celebrating the beauty and intimacy of love. Often interpreted allegorically, whether as the love between Christ and his church, between God and Israel, or simply as a literal romantic poem, the Song of Solomon offers an exquisite exploration of love's many facets. It stands as a testament to the divine design of human affection and the sanctity of marital union. The imagery is lush and evocative, "My beloved is mine, and I am his," encapsulating the ideal of mutual devoutness and harmony in love. Each of these texts, while distinct in nature and purpose, weaves together to form a holistic narrative of Solomon. They portray a man who embodies the zenith of human wisdom and the nadir of spiritual derailment, leaving us with a profound lesson: that wisdom without humble obedience to God is a perilous path. The story of Solomon, as told through these key biblical texts, is both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope, urging us to seek wisdom that is anchored in the steadfast love and commands of the divine. Imagine, dear reader, a land shrouded in the golden hue of divinely gifted wisdom, a kingdom where the very air buzzes with tales of prosperity, peace, and power. In the annals of Israel's storied past, one name rises above many: Solomon. Born into the regal lineage of David, Solomon's ascent to the throne was not merely another chapter in the Chronicle of Kings but a symphony of divine orchestration and human ambition. From the very beginning, Solomon's life is marked by the providence of God. After the turbulent reign of his father David, peppered with wars, triumphs, and personal failures, the young Solomon is chosen above his elder brothers. His coronation is a direct testament to divine selection, for the Lord himself appeared to Solomon in a dream, bestowing upon him not just royal authority, but an unparalleled gift, wisdom. It is in this dream that Solomon, in a moment of profound humility and discernment, asks for an understanding heart to govern the people. The Lord, pleased with this unselfish request, grants him wisdom like no other, along with wealth and honor. Solomon's wisdom becomes legendary. He is the author of proverbs that dance with the light of truth and poetical lyrics that stir the depths of the soul, the most notable being the Song of Solomon, an exquisite tapestry of love and yearning. His judgments are righteous, earning him the reverence of his people and the awe of foreign dignitaries. The Queen of Sheba's visit to Solomon's court, with her retinue laden with spices and gold, epitomizes the far-reaching fame of his sagacity. But Solomon is not just a king of words, he is a king of actions. The crowning achievement of his reign is the construction of the temple in Jerusalem, a task envisioned by his father but brought to fruition by him. This temple, a majestic edifice of cedar, gold, and marble, becomes the dwelling place of the Ark of the Covenant, symbolizing the very heart of Israel's worship and national identity. These were years of glory, peace, and divine favor. Yet, therein lies the paradox of Solomon's narrative. For all his wisdom, Solomon's life is not without a tragic arc. His heart, once wholly devoted to the Lord, begins to waver. The very wisdom that brought prosperity also introduces complexities. Solomon's many political alliances, often cemented through marriages to foreign women, lead to a spiritual erosion. He accumulates a harem of 700 wives and 300 concubines, women from nations with differing deities and customs. These wives, described in the scriptures, turned away his heart after other gods. As Solomon ages, the fragile thread of fidelity to Yahweh frays. He constructs high places for the gods of his wives, and his own heart, once steadfast, becomes divided. The Lord's anger is kindled against Solomon, and his kingdom, once a unified, glorious beacon, is prophesied to be torn apart. The narratives of his latter years are imbued with an intense pathos, a powerful reminder of how blessings can metamorphose into curses through the gateway of disobedience. The life of Solomon, thus, serves as both an inspiring saga and a cautionary tale. It is a vivid reminder that divine gifts, if not stewarded with unwavering faithfulness, can lead to one's downfall. Solomon, the wisest of all, proves that knowledge and power, unanchored from piety, have the potential to be as perilous as they are beneficial. As we reflect on Solomon's journey from exalted wisdom to poignant downfall, let his story inscribe upon our hearts the imperative of aligning wisdom with humility and devotion. May the temple he built and the lessons of his life guide us in constructing lives that resonate with divine purpose and enduring fidelity. The reign of Solomon stands as a remarkable chapter in the annals of the United Monarchy of Israel, a time when the young nation experienced unprecedented growth and prosperity. To fully grasp the historical context of Solomon's sovereignty, we must delve into the intricate tapestry of political, cultural, and social dynamics that defined this era. Politically, Solomon inherited a kingdom unified under the rule of his father, King David. This period is often referred to as the United Monarchy because it represented a rare era of unity among the 12 tribes of Israel. David had strengthened this unity through a series of military conquests, and Solomon's task was to maintain and expand this fragile confederation. His diplomatic acumen was critical. Through strategic marriages to foreign princesses and shrewd alliances, Solomon forged relations with neighboring states, ensuring peace and stability. These marriages, while politically advantageous, would later play a pivotal role in his spiritual downfall, as his foreign wives introduced idolatrous practices into Israel. Culturally, Israel under Solomon experienced a renaissance of learning and artistic achievement. Solomon's reign is often celebrated as a golden age of wisdom and culture. He was famed for his profound knowledge, which he famously displayed in adjudicating disputes and delivering wise proverbs. The construction of the First Temple in Jerusalem, a testament to both architectural ambition and religious devotion, stands as a crowning achievement of this era. The temple not only consolidated religious practices centered in Jerusalem but also symbolized Israel's central role in the ancient Near Eastern world. The influx of wealth from trade routes and tribute further enriched the kingdom, funding grand projects and fostering an environment where the arts and sciences could flourish. Socially, Solomon's rule marked a period of transformation and complexity within Israeli society. The consolidation of power in the central government had profound effects on the local tribal structures. The labor force required for the king's grand building projects, including the temple, imposed significant burdens on the populace. There arose a dichotomy between the opulence of the royal court and the average citizen's daily realities. Solomon's extensive administrative reforms, aimed at centralizing authority, sometimes led to widespread dissatisfaction and discontent, sowing seeds of division that would later affect the kingdom's unity. In this intricate historical framework, Solomon's actions and decisions were deeply influenced by his inheritance of a unified but diverse kingdom, the immense cultural wealth at his disposal, and the complex societal structures he governed. His reign, marked by wisdom and grand enterprise, was equally shadowed by the seeds of future discord and spiritual compromise. Understanding the historical context of Solomon's monarchy thus provides us with crucial insights into the forces that shaped his legacy, both of grandeur and warning. In the grand tapestry of Solomon's life, several figures stand out as influential threads woven into his story. These individuals, each significant in their own right, played crucial roles in shaping the path that led Solomon from the heights of wisdom and glory to the depths of moral decline. Through their interactions with Solomon, they reveal timeless truths about human nature and the complexities of faith and power. First, we consider David, Solomon's father. David, the shepherd boy who became Israel's greatest king, was a man after God's own heart. Though not without his flaws, David's reign was marked by a profound sense of divine purpose and a close relationship with God. It was David who received the promise that his lineage would endure forever, a promise that planted the seed of Solomon's kingship. David's legacy of faith and his deep yearning to build a house for the Lord set the spiritual foundation upon which Solomon's reign would be established. Yet, it was also David's own moral failings, particularly his affair with Bathsheba, that cast a shadow over his household, foretelling the struggles that would later beset Solomon. Speaking of Bathsheba, she is perhaps one of the most complex and enigmatic figures in Solomon's story. As Solomon's mother, Bathsheba's influence was both profound and multifaceted. Her relationship with David began in scandal, yet she rose with resilience to become the queen mother, a position of considerable power and respect. Bathsheba's role in securing Solomon's ascent to the throne cannot be understated. Through her, we see the intricate balance of grace and strength, a woman navigating the turbulent waters of court politics and personal tragedy. She was a pivotal advocate for Solomon, ensuring his place as David's successor amidst the rival claims of other sons. Then, there was Nathan the prophet, a man whose voice resonated with the authority of divine truth. It was Nathan who confronted David with his sin, delivering the heart-wrenching parable that led to David's repentance. Nathan's role extended into Solomon's reign, providing guidance and counsel as a trusted advisor. His prophetic insights and unwavering commitment to God's will offered Solomon a compass, helping him navigate the complexities of ruling a kingdom. Nathan's influence highlights the indispensable role of wise and courageous counselors in guiding leaders toward righteousness and justice. Lastly, we consider the Queen of Sheba, an enigmatic figure whose visit to Solomon's court is shrouded in mystery and wonder. The Queen of Sheba, hailing from a distant land, often thought to be the ancient kingdom of Saba in modern-day Yemen, traveled to Jerusalem, driven by the fame of Solomon's wisdom and wealth. Her visit was a momentous event, emblematic of the far-reaching reputation of Solomon's court. Through their encounter, the Queen of Sheba tested Solomon with hard questions, seeking to understand the depth of his wisdom. Her subsequent admiration and the exchange of lavish gifts underscored the international reverence Solomon commanded. Yet, her visit also serves as a foreshadowing of the allure of foreign influences that would ultimately lead to Solomon's downfall. Each of these figures, David, Bathsheba, Nathan, and the Queen of Sheba, represents a unique facet of Solomon's story. They are more than mere historical characters. They are mirrors reflecting the human condition, with all its virtues and flaws. Through their relationships with Solomon, we gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shape a leader, the temptations that beset even the wisest among us, and the enduring need for divine guidance and grace. As we delve into the life of Solomon, let us not forget the lessons offered by these significant figures. In their stories, we find echoes of our own struggles and triumphs, reminders of the importance of faith, integrity, and humility. May their legacy inspire us to seek wisdom with earnest hearts and to walk faithfully in the paths set before us. Theological concepts. One cannot gaze upon the life of Solomon without stumbling upon rich theological ground. In his narrative, we encounter deep and abiding themes that resonate with the very heart of divinity and human frailty. Central to Solomon's existence are several theological motifs: the covenantal blessings and curses, the wisdom literature attributed to him, and the pervasive peril of idolatry. Consider first the covenantal blessings and curses. Rooted in the covenant made between God and the people of Israel, these blessings and curses manifest as the divine responses to human obedience or rebellion. Solomon, the heir of this covenant, initially basks in its blessings. His wisdom, his wealth, his unmatched reign, they all sprout from a seed of divine favor. Yet the covenant is a double-edged sword, bearing curses for those who deviate from God's path. Solomon's eventual succumbing to idolatry summons these curses, and the glorious kingdom begins its descent into fragmentation and chaos. When we delve into the wisdom literature attributed to Solomon, we unearth a treasure trove of divine insight. The Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon, each serves as a testament to the God-given wisdom that Solomon once wielded. These texts, however, are more than historical artifacts. They are living words, breathing instructions, and reflections for God's people. In Proverbs, wisdom is portrayed as a companion, a guide for righteous living. Ecclesiastes offers a somber meditation on the vanity of worldly pursuits, a grim acknowledgement of life's fleeting nature. The Song of Solomon, with its vivid and emotive verse, explores the depths of love, ultimately pointing toward the divine love between God and his people. Yet, Solomon's narrative is marred by the shadow of idolatry. This theme, perhaps the most harrowing, underscores the spiritual abyss into which Solomon fell. Despite his unparalleled wisdom, Solomon's heart is turned by foreign wives, leading him to erect altars to other gods. This act of idolatry is not merely a betrayal of divine trust, it is a grievous spiritual downfall that beckons the covenantal curses. Idolatry, in its essence, is the elevation of created things above the Creator. For Solomon, it manifests in the adoption of foreign deities, but for us, it can be anything: wealth, power, or even self. Idolatry is the ultimate deviation, the forsaking of the one true God for lesser pursuits. Thus, in Solomon's story, we find a microcosm of our spiritual journey, a path marked by divine wisdom, the promise of blessings, the perils of folly, and the stark dangers of idolatry. His life echoes within our hearts, reminding us that no measure of earthly wisdom shields us from the need to remain steadfast in our devotion to God. Throughout the corridors of history, the story of Solomon has echoed with the voices of influential theologians who have sought to unravel the complexities of his wisdom and his tragic downfall. Among these voices, Augustine of Hippo, Thomas Aquinas, and various modern scholars stand out prominently, each bringing their unique perspectives to bear on the ancient narrative. Augustine, in his profound reflections, often used Solomon as a paradigm to illustrate the transient nature of earthly wisdom when it is divorced from divine wisdom. In his seminal work, The City of God, Augustine expounds on the notion that true wisdom cannot be found in opulence or in the pursuit of worldly pleasures, but rather in the love and fear of God. He reflects on Solomon's life as a cautionary tale, where initial divine favor and unmatched wisdom were ultimately overshadowed by a turning away from God. Augustine's theological lens highlights the dual aspects of Solomon's character, his greatness and his fallibility, as a mirror to humanity's own spiritual journey and struggles. Thomas Aquinas, in his comprehensive theological collection, Summa Theologica, delves into the intricacies of Solomon's wisdom with a scholastic rigor that seeks to marry reason with faith. Aquinas esteemed Solomon's wisdom as a divine gift, a manifestation of God's grace that equipped Solomon to rule justly and build the temple, symbolizing the dwelling place of God among his people. However, Aquinas also pondered on Solomon's later years, where his alliances through marriage led him into idolatry. To Aquinas, Solomon's story serves as a poignant reminder of the perils of deviating from divine precepts and the importance of aligning human wisdom with God's eternal truth. Modern scholars have approached Solomon's narrative with a blend of historical critical methods, psychological insights, and sociocultural analyses. Their interpretations often involve a more nuanced understanding of the sociopolitical context of Solomon's reign, his strategic marriages, and their impact on the united monarchy. These scholars, like Walter Brueggemann and John D. Levinson, often emphasize the complexities and paradoxes of Solomon's character. Brueggemann, for instance, sees Solomon as embodying the tensions between covenantal faithfulness and royal pragmatism, while Levinson explores the theological dimensions of Solomon's endeavors and failures, presenting him as a figure caught between divine mandate and human ambition. These theologians, through their varied lenses, underscore a timeless truth. Solomon's narrative is not merely a historical account but a theological reflection, a mirror that reveals the perennial struggle between wisdom and folly, faithfulness and disobedience. Their collective discourse invites us to ponder the deeper implications of Solomon's life, urging us to seek a wisdom that is firmly rooted in the divine, transcending the ephemeral allure of earthly grandeur. As we reflect on the insights from Augustine, Aquinas, and modern scholars, it becomes clear that Solomon's life, with all its brilliance and its shadows, continues to speak to us across the ages. It calls us to discern the true source of wisdom and to remain steadfast in our pursuit of the divine, mindful of the lessons etched in the annals of his legacy. Let us delve into the traditional views that have painted Solomon as a figure both revered for his wisdom and pitied for his tragic flaws. These perspectives hold not merely an academic interest but carry with them the weight of moral instruction and spiritual caution. Solomon, the son of David, began his reign under remarkable auspices. The wisdom he was granted, soaring beyond the comprehension of ordinary men, became proverbial. "A greater than Solomon is here," said Jesus Christ, emphasizing the unparalleled sagacity Solomon possessed. From judgments that resolved the direst of disputes to proverbs that enlightened minds across generations, Solomon's wisdom was manifold. It is this wisdom that asserts the first pillar of the traditional view, Solomon as the paragon of a kingdom under divine favor. God's own endorsement came with the conditions of faith and obedience. The magnificence of Solomon's reign, the grandeur of the temple, the prosperity of his people, and the peace during his dominion, are seen as direct fruits of this covenantal relationship with the Almighty. Yet, woven into the tapestry of Solomon's life is a warning as ancient and grave as time itself. No matter how wise or elevated, Solomon was still human, subject to the same frailties and temptations. The scriptural account is unflinching in recording his decline. The love for many women, especially those from foreign lands who worshipped other gods, led Solomon's heart astray. Here, tradition does not merely highlight an individual lapse but illustrates a broader theological truth: the peril of succumbing to idolatry and the forsaking of one's divine calling for ephemeral pleasures. The fidelity to the traditional narrative insists on Solomon being more than an ancient monarch. He is a symbol of what can befall anyone who allows earthly desires to obscure their spiritual vision. This interpretation is undergirded by various complementary texts within the Bible itself. For instance, Ecclesiastes, often attributed to Solomon, reads almost like a personal confession and warning: "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." It is a somber meditation on the futility of chasing after worldly gains to the exclusion of divine precepts. This dovetails with the traditional view that sees Solomon's story as an integrated part of the divine pedagogy for humanity. His wisdom, wealth, and power serve as positive exemplars, just as his polygamy, idolatry, and subsequent downfall serve as grave admonitions. The traditional view does not shy away from portraying Solomon's life as a cautionary tale. It underscores that unparalleled gifts and divine favor can be undermined by faithlessness and disobedience. Thus, in monastic halls and Sunday schools alike, Solomon's life is recounted not merely for its historical or literary merits but for its didactic weight. He becomes a figure akin to the heroes and tragic figures of Greek myth, but anchored firmly within a framework that sees his tale as laden with moral imperatives. In essence, his story is preserved to remind believers, whether in ancient Israel or the modern world, that faith must be steadfast and that no accumulation of wisdom or power can compensate for a heart turned away from God. In conclusion, the traditional view of Solomon encapsulates a dual appreciation of the heights to which divine grace can elevate a soul, and the depths to which the same soul can plummet if it forsakes that grace. His wisdom and prosperity are celebrated, but his fall stands as an eternal lesson, echoing through the corridors of spiritual teachings, warning against the seductions of worldly allurements and the paramount importance of unwavering faith. When we delve into the life of Solomon, the man to whom wisdom was granted beyond measure, we must also confront the shadows cast upon his legacy by modern scholarship. This is neither to diminish his accomplishments nor to elevate his failings unduly. Rather, it is an honest engagement with the complexities of a profoundly human story. Scholars, particularly in recent times, have posed challenges to the traditional views of Solomon, and these critiques come from various quarters. One prominent line of inquiry is from feminist scholars who cast a critical eye on how Solomon's relationships with women are portrayed. They question the dynamics of power and agency between Solomon and the 1,000 women mentioned in the scriptures. Feminist critiques point out that these women, often referred to as foreign wives, are depicted in ways that suggest a lack of autonomy, reduced to instruments of Solomon's political and spiritual demise. This analysis brings forth a broader discussion on the portrayal of women in ancient texts and the implications it carries for understanding gender roles both in history and scripture. Furthermore, there is another significant challenge from historical critics who scrutinize the grand narratives of Solomon's empire and wealth. Archaeological findings, or at times the lack thereof, have ignited debates about the accuracy of the biblical depiction of Solomon's reign and its grandeur. These scholars question whether the extent of his kingdom and the magnificence of his court were as vast as traditionally understood. Some point to a possible amalgamation of various regional stories or a hyperbolic tradition that sought to magnify the glory of Israel's past. These critiques do not merely seek to discredit but rather to unravel the layers of storytelling and historical recording, encouraging us to consider the cultural and editorial processes that shape these ancient texts. It invites us to discern between theological truths and historical context, an exercise that enriches rather than diminishes our appreciation of these scriptures. In summation, the challenges posed by feminist and historical scholars compel us to revisit and reflect upon Solomon's story with a nuanced perspective. It calls for a balance, honoring the wisdom bestowed upon Solomon while acknowledging the complexities and imperfections of his legacy, which in turn mirrors the multifaceted nature of humanity itself. Let us embark on a fascinating journey through the landscapes of comparative religious beliefs. Imagine, if you will, the figure of Solomon, a king renowned for his wisdom, wealth, and eventual tragic downfall, as depicted in the biblical narrative. But this image transcends the boundaries of any single faith tradition. Solomon's essence reverberates across the tapestries of ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, and beyond. Picture the wisdom kings of Mesopotamia, such as the sagacious king Gilgamesh. Much like Solomon, Gilgamesh was celebrated for his unparalleled intellect and grandeur. Yet, despite his might and wit, he faced the epic tragedies and existential musings that mark the human condition. The Epic of Gilgamesh narratively explores themes of friendship, mortality, and the quest for eternal life, parallels which echo in Solomon's reflections within Ecclesiastes. Venture further south to ancient Egypt, where figures like the pharaoh Akhenaten emerge. Akhenaten, much like Solomon, sought ways to transcend the ordinary bounds of rule. His efforts to centralize worship around a single deity, Aten, mirrored Solomon's struggle with polytheism and idolatry. Akhenaten's radical monotheistic reforms resonate with Solomon's endeavors to build a temple for Yahweh, yet simultaneously hint at the peril of abandoning traditional divine observances, leading to societal upheavals. In the annals of Indian mythology, King Vikramaditya stands as another comparative figure. Vikramaditya, renowned for his wisdom and justice, parallels Solomon's adjudicative prowess. Tales tell of his sagacious judgments and deep philosophical insights, a throne soberly adorned with moral tales akin to the proverbs woven by Solomon's own hand. Across these distant yet strangely interconnected lands, we observe a common thread: the archetypal wise ruler striving for divine insight while grappling with human shortcomings. Each culture ingrains its own unique mythos and moral lessons into these figures, yet the universal pursuit of wisdom and the eventual confrontation with existential dilemmas remain. Such comparative studies not only illuminate the commonalities between these majestic figures but also underscore the diverse expressions of humanity's quest to understand the divine. Solomon, while situated firmly within the Judaic tradition, becomes a prism through which the wisdom and folly of kings across epochs and regions can be comprehended. In drawing these comparisons, our understanding of Solomon is enriched, transforming him from a solitary ancient figure into a symbol of universal human aspiration and fallibility. It is through the interweaving of these narratives that we see the eternal struggle to balance wisdom, power, and piety, a struggle that binds us across the chasms of time and culture. Thus, the story of Solomon melds into a grander mosaic of human experience, each piece reflecting the myriad ways we seek to navigate the sacred and the profane. In the bustling, dusty dig sites of the ancient Near East, amidst layers of earth that conceal millennia of history, archaeologists have unearthed what they believe to be remnants of Solomon's temple. This discovery, if authenticated, offers a tangible connection to one of the Bible's most iconic figures. But what do these stones, worn by time and weather, tell us about Solomon's grand architectural marvel? First, let us consider the grandeur and scale of Solomon's temple as described in the scriptures. It was said to be a structure of awe-inspiring beauty, adorned with gold, silver, and precious stones. This temple was not merely a building, it was a symbol, a physical manifestation of Israel's covenant with God. From its holy inner sanctum, the most holy place, to its magnificent pillars, everything about the temple echoed divine grandeur and designed purpose. The excavation sites, particularly those at what many scholars identify as the Ophel site in Jerusalem, have revealed artifacts and structural remnants that match the biblical descriptions to some extent. These include large, hewn stones that may have formed part of the temple's foundation. Additionally, ivory pomegranates and ceramic jar handles inscribed with ancient Hebrew passages have been discovered, further suggesting the ceremonial and religious significance of the finds. Skeptics, however, caution against hasty conclusions. Archaeology is, after all, a science rife with uncertainties. There are debates over the exact locations and the authenticity of these findings. Some assert that what has been unearthed may not date precisely to Solomon's reign, instead belonging to a broader timeline of ancient Israelite construction. The challenge lies in the paucity of direct references that can unequivocally tie these artifacts to Solomon's era without a shadow of doubt. Moreover, the infamous Solomonic gates, named for their massive, six-chambered design, have been found in several ancient cities, including Megiddo, Hazor, and Gezer. These gates align with the biblical account which tells us Solomon fortified important cities in his kingdom. Their significantly uniform design suggests a centralized architectural plan, a possible hallmark of Solomon's kingdom. Yet, while these impressive gate structures hint at the presence of a powerful centralized authority during the United Monarchy period, they cannot be solely attributed to Solomon. There remain many open questions regarding their exact dating and the scope of Solomon's influence over these constructions. In addition, recent discoveries in the city of David, the ancient core of Jerusalem, have brought to light building structures and artifacts that some claim could belong to the period of Solomon's reign. The so-called large stone structure, which may have served as a palace, and the nearby stepped stone structure, a possible support for a significant governmental or religious building, continue to fuel debates among scholars on their connections to Solomon. For faithful believers, these archaeological findings serve as affirmations of their sacred texts, offering tangible links to the biblical narratives. They invite us to imagine the grandeur of Solomon's Jerusalem, a city that once stood as a beacon of divine wisdom and kingly power. For skeptics and scholars, these discoveries represent pieces of an ever-evolving puzzle, each artifact a small glimpse into a past that is yet fully understood. The narrative of these stones and artifacts, regardless of one's stance, brings us face to face with the ephemeral nature of human achievements. Solomon, with all his wisdom and wealth, established a kingdom that has since crumbled into the dust of history. It reminds us of the transient glory of earthly endeavors and the enduring pursuit of truth, be it through faith or scholarly inquiry. As we delve into these archaeological mysteries, we must approach them with both reverence and scrutiny. Reverence for the cultural and spiritual heritage they might represent, and scrutiny to unravel the historical truths they may conceal. In this delicate balance, we inch closer to understanding not just Solomon and his era, but the broader human quest for meaning and legacy. When journeying through the annals of biblical history, one cannot overlook the towering figure of Solomon, the son of David, whose reign is often depicted in Scripture as the zenith of Israel's ancient kingdom. Yet, the Solomon that emerges from academic debates is a figure as shrouded in mystery as he is adorned in wisdom. Contemporary scholars grapple with the historicity of Solomon's reign, employing an array of archaeological evidence, ancient texts, and historical methodologies to construct a portrait of the man behind the myth. It is important to remember that much of what is known about Solomon comes from biblical sources, which are rich in narrative but often sparse in corroborative detail. One of the primary questions that scholars wrestle with is the actual extent of Solomon's wealth and the magnificence of his kingdom. The biblical narrative in 1 Kings and Chronicles describes an opulent empire filled with stunning palaces, a grand temple, and extensive trade networks. However, archaeological findings have yielded mixed results, prompting rigorous debate. Some excavations, particularly those led by prominent archaeologists in Israel, have uncovered structures and artifacts that date back to what many believe could be the Solomonic era. For instance, impressive city gates and administrative buildings at sites like Megiddo, Hazor, and Gezer align with the biblical description of Solomon's extensive building projects. These discoveries hint at a centralized authority capable of organizing such grand constructions. On the other hand, a segment of scholars remains skeptical, arguing that the evidence does not definitively point to a single, unified monarchy under Solomon's rule. They suggest that the biblical text may reflect later editorial efforts to present a golden age of united Israel, possibly during the more prosperous and politically stable periods of subsequent reigns. The notion of a centralized bureaucracy, evidenced by the so-called Solomonic gates, could thus be attributed to these later periods rather than to Solomon himself. Another area of academic contention is Solomon's international relations, particularly his alliances and trade networks. The scriptures speak of alliances with Egypt and Tyre, extensive sea trade routes, and visits from distant dignitaries like the Queen of Sheba. Some historians and archaeologists point to inscriptions and artifacts from ancient Egypt and Phoenicia that reference trade and interaction with Israel, lending some credence to these accounts. Still, definitive evidence that specifically attributes these interactions to Solomon's reign remains elusive. Moreover, the debate extends to the interpretation of Solomon's feigned wisdom and his literary contributions. The Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon are attributed to him in the Bible, but critical scholarship often views these works as products of multiple authors over different periods. The wisdom literature, with its profound insights and philosophical musings, may reflect the collective wisdom of Israel's sages rather than the singular genius of Solomon. In the end, the academic debates surrounding Solomon's historicity, wealth, and international relations highlight the complexity of reconstructing ancient history. They reveal the challenges of interpreting archaeological data and ancient texts, each contributing piece to a puzzle that is still far from complete. As we unravel these scholarly discussions, we find ourselves not simply in pursuit of historical accuracy but also in deeper engagement with the narratives that have shaped faith and culture. Solomon remains a compelling figure whose life invites us to ponder the interplay between legend and history, wisdom and folly, grandeur and downfall. Through this exploration, we gain not just knowledge, but also insight into the enduring human quest for understanding and meaning. Miraculous events. Solomon's enigma explored. In every age, there are figures who seem to stride the boundary between the natural and the supernatural. Solomon, the esteemed king of ancient Israel, whose wisdom, wealth, and power captivated his era, is also remembered for stirring tales of miraculous events. Indeed, the stories of his reputed control over demons and spirits, his prophetic visions, and the enigmatic aura of his extraordinary wisdom transcended the centuries, weaving themselves into the tapestry of both religious tradition and cultural lore. We begin with the most tantalizing aspect of Solomon's legend, his dominion over demons. According to the apocryphal text known as the Testament of Solomon, the king possessed a ring engraved with the seal of God, which granted him the power to command spirits and demons. It is said that Solomon used these supernatural entities to aid in the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. Imagine, if you will, the scene of unearthly beings toiling under the wise king's mandate, their otherworldly energies harnessed to fulfill divine purposes. Whether fact or allegory, this tale underscores a profound truth: that wisdom and divine favor can harness even the most chaotic forces for righteousness. Alongside his control over demons, Solomon's prophetic visions imbued his reign with a sense of sacred destiny. The Hebrew Bible recounts the momentous event when God appeared to Solomon in a dream, granting him unparalleled wisdom. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give you." 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 5. Rather than requesting wealth or long life, Solomon sought an understanding heart to judge the people and discern between good and evil. This selfless plea for wisdom pleased God, who bestowed not only wisdom but also riches and honor. Herein lies a timeless lesson. True wisdom seeks not personal gain but the greater good, and in doing so, attracts blessings beyond measure. Yet the mystique of Solomon's wisdom extended beyond mere judicial acumen. The lore includes accounts of his profound knowledge of nature, medicine, and astrology. Solomonic literature, particularly in the Pseudepigrapha, attributes to him a command over plants and animals, as well as the ability to heal and to decipher the mysteries of the cosmos. These stories paint Solomon not only as a sage but as a universal scholar whose wisdom bridged the gap between the earthly and the divine. In interpreting these miraculous events, we confront the delicate balance between ancient understandings and modern perspectives. To the ancients, the world was alive with spiritual forces, both holy and malevolent. The idea that a king could wield authority over such entities was coherent within their worldviews. Traditions framed these stories as demonstrations of divine sanction and moral authority, resonating deeply with their religious psyche. From a modern standpoint, these accounts are often read symbolically or psychologically. The legend of Solomon commanding demons might be seen as a metaphor for the struggle to master one's own inner demons, with wisdom as the ring of power that brings order out of chaos. The prophetic dreams and transcendent knowledge may be viewed as archetypal symbols of human striving for enlightenment and understanding. In both ancient and contemporary lenses, Solomon represents more than historical curiosity. He embodies the quest for wisdom that integrates the physical with the metaphysical, the known with the mysterious. Whether these miraculous events transpired as literal historical facts or stand as mythic truths, they point us towards a deeper recognition of the intricate and miraculous nature of wisdom itself. In conclusion, the accounts of Solomon's miraculous control over demons and spirits, his prophetic visions, and the enigma of his wisdom offer us rich narratives that challenge and inspire. They invite us to ponder the mysteries of our existence, to seek wisdom with humility, and to rise beyond the mundane towards the extraordinary. Much like Solomon, we too are called to navigate the realms of the seen and unseen, ever striving to harmonize our human experience with divine purpose. Impact on faith and practice. Exploring how Solomon's story has influenced Jewish, Christian, and Islamic practices and beliefs. In the annals of human history, few figures loom as large as King Solomon, and fewer still have left such a pervasive impact on the tapestry of faith and practice across multiple religions. The story of Solomon, with its profound blend of wisdom, wealth, and spiritual decline, has provided fertile ground for reflection within Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. This narrative has not just lingered on the pages of ancient texts but has been woven into the strands of religious thought, practice, and morality that shape lives today. Within the Jewish tradition, Solomon's era is often seen as a golden age of wisdom and prosperity, a period when Israel reached the zenith of its united monarchy. His construction of the First Temple in Jerusalem stands as a monumental achievement in Jewish history, symbolizing the height of Israel's spiritual and political cohesion. The temple, known as Solomon's Temple, became the focal point of Jewish worship and pilgrimage for centuries. Solomon's legacy in wisdom literature, especially the Book of Proverbs, has deeply influenced Jewish teachings and ethics, offering insights into righteous living. The cautionary elements of his story, especially his idolatry in later life, serve as timeless warnings against the perils of straying from devotion to God. In the Christian context, Solomon's narrative takes on a multifaceted role. Early church fathers and theologians often drew on his wisdom and writings, infusing them into Christian doctrine and moral teachings. The Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, has been interpreted allegorically by Christian mystics as depicting the intimate relationship between Christ and the Church. Solomon's fall, mirrored in the New Testament's exhortations, underscores the vulnerability of even the wisest and most blessed among men to the snares of sin and apostasy. Sermons today still echo the themes of Solomon's life, emphasizing the temporary nature of earthly wealth and the imperative of remaining steadfast in faith. Solomon's influence extends notably into Islamic tradition, where he is known as Sulayman. The Quran and Hadiths recount his wisdom, justice, and dominion over not just people but jinn and animals, presenting him as a prophet king endowed with divine favor. His prayers for understanding and his adjudication in matters of justice are held up as exemplary models of governance and piety. Sulayman's narrative is invoked to illustrate the virtues of wisdom, humility before God, and the moral dangers of letting power and wealth lead one astray. Islamic teachings often draw parallels between his story and the broader Islamic framework of servitude to Allah above all else. Solomon's life story has thus permeated the fabric of faith practices and religious pedagogy. It has been a source of rich homiletic material, inspiring countless sermons across synagogues, churches, and mosques. His wisdom literature continues to be a bedrock of ethical instruction and spiritual reflection. Modern interpretations and adaptations of Solomon's story often emphasize contemporary themes such as the quest for knowledge, the ethical use of power, and the consequences of moral compromise. Whether through the rituals of Jewish liturgy, the ecclesiastical teachings of Christianity, or the jurisprudential principles of Islam, the life of Solomon resonates with believers, offering enduring lessons and guiding principles. His narrative, a confluence of human grandeur and frailty, invites modern-day adherents to ponder the complexities of wisdom, faithfulness, and the relentless pursuit of spiritual integrity. The figure of Solomon, the wise yet tragic king, has been a source of profound inspiration across centuries, his image transforming and adapting within the tapestry of human creativity. In the medieval manuscripts, Solomon is often portrayed as the epitome of divine wisdom, his visage serene, his judgments fair. These illuminated pages, painstakingly crafted by monks, aim to encapsulate the heavenly wisdom that Solomon was believed to possess, each stroke of the brush a testament to his God-given insight. Then, in the Renaissance, artists like Giovanni Pisano and Raphael turned their brushes to illuminate the myriad facets of Solomon's character. Raphael's fresco, The Judgment of Solomon, stands as a grand testament to the wisdom literature and lucid thinking that Solomon represents. Renaissance paintings capture the essence of Solomon's wisdom with dramatic flair, often situating him in grand architectural settings, surrounded by the chaos of court, embodying the soul of rationality amidst human folly. Literature, too, has woven Solomon's narrative into its fabric. The pen of the playwright and novelist has often revisited Solomon's story to explore themes of wisdom and moral decline. Dante places him amongst the wise rulers in his Divine Comedy. Here, Solomon's wisdom becomes both his crowning glory and his downfall, a duality that poets and authors have found endlessly fascinating. Modern cinema has not left Solomon untouched either. Films juxtapose the grandeur of his empire with the intimate struggles of his personhood. They attempt to decode the ancient enigma, portraying him both as the sagacious king who built a mighty temple and as a man besieged by his multitudinous passions. Through film, the ancient king steps into our living rooms, larger than life, yet very human. Novels, contemporary and historical alike, draw from Solomon's well of wisdom, using his proverbs and stories as both a mirror and a window, reflecting our deepest questions about authority, knowledge, and virtue. They shed new light on his 1,000 wives, not just as a record of kingly indulgence but as a parable about the perils of diverting one's heart from a single, true devotion. In analyzing these cultural representations, one sees not merely portrayals of a historical figure but a continual quest for understanding deeper truths. Artists, authors, and filmmakers use Solomon's image as a canvas to explore the multifaceted nature of wisdom, the struggles of moral integrity, and the consequences of turning away from the divine. Each depiction of Solomon, whether imprinted on ancient parchment or projected on modern screens, invites us to ponder the paradox of wisdom. How, despite our greatest knowledge, we remain susceptible to the simplest of human errors. It is through this grand mosaic of cultural representations that Solomon lives on, not just in the annals of history, but in the ongoing story of human aspiration and failure. Solomon's tale remains an enduring allegory, a beacon of wisdom, and a sober reminder of the fragility of the human heart. In the grand tapestry of biblical narrative, Solomon's life stands as a pinnacle of human potential and a poignant cautionary tale. We've traversed the arc of his journey, observing his meteoric rise endowed with divine wisdom, unparalleled wealth, and sovereign power. Yet, even Solomon, favored by God and blessed with extraordinary gifts, succumbed to the all-too-familiar pitfalls of human frailty. The primary lessons from Solomon's life are as enduring as they are profound. First and foremost, his descent into idolatry underscores the perils of straying from one's faith. Despite his initial devotion, Solomon's heart was led astray by his many foreign wives, illustrating the corrosive potential of allowing earthly desires to eclipse spiritual commitments. Moreover, Solomon exemplifies the dual-edged nature of wisdom. Granted unparalleled understanding, he composed proverbs and songs that illuminated the paths of countless others. Yet, his wisdom did not immunize him from making grave errors. This theme invites us to consider that wisdom, if not grounded in steadfast moral and spiritual principles, can falter under the weight of human weakness. Solomon's story also reminds us of the consequences of hubris and unchecked power. As his wealth and accomplishments grew, so did his sense of invincibility. This culminated in actions that brought about his kingdom's division and decline, marking a stark reversal of fortune for the once grand ruler. For contemporary believers, the tale of Solomon holds significant moral implications. It is a mirror reflecting our own susceptibilities and the enduring relevance of adhering to faith amid life's myriad distractions. It challenges us to remain vigilant, humble, and faithful, aware that even the wisest among us can falter. As we conclude, we invite you to engage with our community. Subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your insights and suggestions are invaluable as we continue our exploration of these timeless stories. Finally, we welcome your feedback and ideas for future topics. Let's foster a dialogue that enriches our collective understanding and inspires our spiritual journeys. Heavenly Father, we come before you today seeking wisdom and understanding, as Solomon once did. We acknowledge the dangers of straying from your path and ask for strength to remain faithful to your word. Grant us the discernment to live lives that honor you, avoiding the pitfalls of earthly desires. May the lessons from Solomon's life guide us in our spiritual journey, leading us closer to your truth and light. In your holy name, we pray. Amen.